My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. I am absolutely livid. I am so pissed off. I'm livid. I'm going to try to get through this video without cussing. I try not to cuss on this channel, but it's really, really hard sometimes. I am so concerned about so many things. Let's talk about the match last night. This was a really, really poor performance. I am so worried about the injury situation, the tactical mistakes that we're making, and unfortunately, and I hate to do this, but we have to talk about the refs again because not a week goes by in this Barca-funded, mafia-infested league that we don't have to put up with just ridiculous, scandalous referee decisions. I'm really concerned about where we are tactically, the mistakes we're making, some of the key weaknesses that we have in really important positions, and we have a hell of a schedule the next 3 weeks. So I'm really concerned, really, really upset. But let me give you my thoughts on the match, players, and kind of where we are ahead of 3 really critical weeks. Thanks for joining me as always, and let's talk about this horrendous evening. Let's get started. Hey, Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about this match last night. By the way, first of all, let me just say I'm really sorry I wasn't able to do a post-match analysis of the Brest match the other day. I had a really, really busy day. I just couldn't find the time to do it, so I apologize for that. But let's get caught up on where we are now. This was just a poor, sluggish performance, and it's just really worrisome considering the calendar that we have ahead of us. I'm very worried about the injury situation. You know, it's funny, before the match, I was talking to my uncle, and I was saying that I was really concerned specifically about 3 players, Fede, Jude, and Rudiger. And I was telling him I'm incredibly worried. These guys are playing every minute of every match. They are absolutely mission critical. If one of those guys gets injured, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And lo and behold, in the 14th minute of this match, Rudiger gets injured. And we better hope that this is not serious, because Haaland must be feeling such a sense of relief. If you remember the last 3-4 years, every time we played Man City, Rudiger has absolutely canceled out Haaland unbelievably. And to not have Rudiger in those matches is going to be a real loss for us. But let's talk about the lineup first. I think considering all the injuries, I don't think that any of us were too surprised to see what we saw last night with Courtois in goal, Lucas Vázquez as right back, and this is turning out to be a constant liability. We had Fran playing left back. He chose once again to put Tchouaméni in the center back position over Asensio. This is becoming increasingly difficult to justify or explain, but he had Tchouaméni as a center back with Rudiger. In the middle of the pitch, you had Ceballos and Fede sort of as a double pivot, and then Jude a little bit further forward behind the forwards. And again, we played with 3 forwards, Vini, Rodrigo, and Kylian. This was, look, just one of those poor performances. I found we were very thick in our play. We just felt a bit dense, a bit slow. One of the things that I noticed in this match, almost off the bat, and I do give a little bit of credit to the Espanyol players because I think they closed us down well and they defended quite well. But every time a Real Madrid player received the ball, and this was really noticeable in the first 15-20 minutes, the second Real Madrid player received the ball, he immediately, there was no time at all. He immediately had 2 or 3 defenders on him, and this happened over and over and over, and it just felt like we couldn't find space. Now, when this is happening, typically you're either circulating the ball too slowly. The only explanations for this are you're moving the ball too slowly or you're too predictable. Because if every time one of your players receives the ball, you immediately have markers, it means that you're either moving the ball too slowly or you're just too predictable. And I felt that this was the case almost throughout the entirety of the match, and it was a real liability throughout the whole match. The first 15 minutes were a little bit back and forth, Espanyol trying to push up, but as the minutes went by, Real Madrid kind of slowly settled into possession. I think as the minutes went by, Espanyol players started to get a little bit tired. It's impossible to press at that level for 90 minutes. We started to settle into possession, and then the game started to look a little bit more like what you would expect. The key moments in this match were, okay, the 14th minute with the Rudiger injury, which is disastrous potentially going forward. We'll have to see what happens there. Asensio came in for him, did a phenomenal job. That's another one of the stories of this match, was that Asensio once again is proving to be a lifesaver. And I don't know what this kid needs to do to get Ancelotti's trust, because I trust him. I mean, we've tested him 7 or 8 times. He's done a brilliant job. Why are we still fucking around? Why can't Asensio play center back? It's his natural position. He's done an amazing job, and Tchouaméni keeps screwing up. So I don't understand this decision. But again, a key moment in the 14th minute with Rudiger's injury. In the 21st minute, we had the goal disallowed. Now, Vini, up to that point, hadn't played particularly well. I think he was a little bit absent. Just seemed a little bit, off. Wasn't participating too much. But that was a beautiful goal. It was an absolutely vintage Vini goal, and it was disallowed. And again, I hate talking about refs, but are you serious? When I watched that goal in real time, I didn't, once again, I didn't see anything wrong. Then you see the replay, and it's disallowed because of a foul on Kylian. But please, for the love of God, look at this play. Okay, the defender has Kylian in a headlock, and not just for 1 second, for a long extended period of time, he has Kylian in a headlock. And when Kylian just pushes the player away to get away from the headlock, then it's a foul on Kylian. Well, I can tell you that that's just not the way the sport works, because that was either a foul on the original headlock, or it was a foul on both players, in which case they cancel out and you ignore it. But the one thing it was not was simply a foul on Kylian. That it wasn't. It was either a foul on both of them, or you call the original foul, which was a headlock on Kylian. But what you don't do is disallow the goal, calling a foul on Kylian, when that is only a very small part of what happened in that play. That really, really upset me, but this is the shit that we're just getting used to seeing week in and week out, and I'm just absolutely livid, because we're playing in the most corrupt league in Europe. I hate to say it. I'm just disgusted. This happens week in, week out. You would have thought that Barca, having been caught bribing the most important head of refs for 20 years, paying him millions. And by the way, I've done a video looking at this issue, and please watch it, because it's math. I'm not making this shit up. When you look, if you look at the video that I put out and you look at the statistics, because some people say, well, how can you prove that the payments had an impact? Yes, you can. You can prove it very easily. Because if you look at the 15 years prior to Negreira getting his payments, if you look at the 15 years prior to that, and you look at red cards for and against, penalties for and against, Real Madrid and Barca were kind of equal, which is what you would expect over a long sample. And then you look at what happened from the moment Negreira starts getting paid, the 20 years after that, and the statistical divergence in calls is insane. It's completely mathematically insane. Some of these leagues are won by 1 point, by 2 points, and look at the differential in red cards and penalties in favor of Barca, who had the best referee tally, not just in Spain for 20 years, but in all of Europe. And in my video, I literally show you the numbers, and I show you how they look statistically. If Barca had the best refereeing decisions of all of Europe, and comparing it to the 5 big leagues, it's absolutely disgusting. And they get caught, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We are still dealing with this. And this Barca-funded mafia is still alive. Even watching it on TV, the Movistar guys, if you hear the commentary and the replays that they show you, this is all manipulated. The guys at Movistar and DAZN, Rhodes is the guy that started this whole thing. He's a guy that lent Barca $100 million of his own money. And he's the guy in charge of the VAR booth, in charge of every image that you see, what replays you're allowed to see and what replays you're not allowed to see. And you think we don't notice this? It's still going on. It's absolutely disgusting. But anyway, let's get back to the match. Okay, we settled into possession a little bit more as the minutes went by. The second half was kind of very similar. We were much, pushing forward a lot more. But Espanyol did look a little bit dangerous on the counters. As I was watching the match, I was like, okay, we do have to be careful with these counters because we did look like our team breaks apart. When we play a 4-3-3, something that happens is that our team breaks apart. And what I mean by that is that when you're playing with 4 players up front, you've got Jude behind the 3 forwards. The second that we lose a ball up front, and the other team starts to counter, all of a sudden we have 4 players behind the ball and only 2 midfielders to try to press and interrupt the counter. And that leaves us really exposed. It's like the team breaks. You're left with 4 players that can no longer defend the counter, and you have only 2 midfielders to supplement the defense. The team breaks apart. We don't have enough bodies in the middle of the pitch to stop counters when we play a 4-3-3. And I don't know what it's going to look like when we play against City, because this was Espanyol. But I mean, City, okay? We're going to play against Foden and Holland and Bernardo Silva and Grealish. I mean, this is going to be really, really difficult for us. And I think, tactically we're making the same mistake over and over, and it's driving me crazy. Okay, we did create some chances, when we were in possession. Jude had a very good shot in the 50th minute. Kylian tried to hit the rebound, but again, that was stopped. Very close. 3 minutes later, Vini had a good shot that could have also gone in. And then in the 59th minute, we had the yellow card. Okay, that brutal tackle on Kylian, which is, you guys, seriously, I do not understand. I mean, this was the most blatant red card you'll ever see in this sport. I mean, these are the type of plays and challenges that can ruin a player's career indefinitely. Remember what happened to Van Basten, what happened to Ronaldo Nazario in the prime of his career. These are tackles. The reason that you have red cards in the sport is to avoid tackles like this. Okay, because these are challenges that can break a player's leg, that can destroy a player's career. Look at this play. Tell me, the Espanyol player he was so far from the ball, he wasn't even attempting to play the ball. There was zero chance of him getting the ball. The ball was way out in front. And he goes in with his studs and plants him on the back of Kylian while he's running at full speed. You try running, sprinting as fast as you can, and have someone slam their studs into your hind leg. You can break a guy's leg. But this was a yellow? And some of the arguments that you hear here just fucking piss me off. They go, well, he wasn't injured. He didn't really catch him right. So, I guess a yellow is fine. No. Okay, the way you decide whether it's red or yellow is not based on a medical report. You don't have to break a leg for it to be a red card. What you look at is the play. Did the play endanger the physical integrity of the other player? Did the player have a chance to play the ball? Or was it just an aggression without even taking into account where the ball is, which is what happened here? This is why the VAR booth exists. This is why red cards exist, to see plays like this and to stop them. And the way you do that is by giving out red cards. This was absolutely atrocious, and we're lucky that Kylian made it out of this. This could have broken his leg easily. And any other team in La Liga, this would have been a red card. But it's absolutely appalling. I think he's the player that ended up scoring the goal. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So that pissed me off to high heaven. Anyway, the match continued. I think, generally speaking, Espanyol did defend quite well, and we have to give him credit for that. The counter on the goal was, a very good goal. In the 70th minute, first of all, we had the first change, which was Luka Modric coming in for Ceballos. I was a little bit surprised because I thought Ceballos was playing okay. He wasn't playing as well as in other matches, but I thought he was sort of okay. I was a little bit surprised to see that change, but it's an acceptable idea. The goal came in the 84th minute, and again, this was a counter. Whenever they countered, they looked dangerous because of what I'm telling you. When you play a 4-3-3, we don't have enough bodies to catch a counter. That goal, Luka Modric had a chance to foul the player in transition, and I think he should have, because he could have stopped that play and avoided the goal. So I think Modric in this case should have just fouled and interrupted that play. He didn't. It resulted in a goal, and we have to say that goal again was just such a lapse of concentration defensively. The ball goes into the box, and there are 2 Real Madrid players in the center of the box, but nobody's marking the forward on the second post. I mean, how is that possible? Now, at this point, Fede was playing right back, and Fede is a wonderful player, and I very rarely criticize him because he's one of the most consistent players we have. But this was a mistake by Fede, because you're playing right back in that position. What are you doing in the center of the box? You should have naturally gravitated more to the right side. And that player, again, was completely alone. He was totally unmarked. How can we have 2 defenders in the box, but nobody's marking the only Espanyol player who's in the box to catch that ball. It's just really disappointing. This was just a lapse in concentration. The final change was Brahim for Lucas Vazquez towards the end of the match. These changes are just insignificant. I don't even know why Ancelotti bothers with this shit. There's 2 minutes left in a game. Why are you even bothering? Makes no sense to me. And look, in terms of broad takeaways, I would say, first of all, I'm very worried about this 4-3-3 thing. Ancelotti is hell-bent on playing with 3 forwards, and it makes us soft, and I don't know what that's going to look like when we play against really good teams. I'm also, a little bit worried that the injury situation has me very worried because Rudiger, we have to see what happens with Rudiger. Alaba is just not, Alaba's 32 years old, and he's coming off an injury that's kept him from playing for over a year. I don't think, we have to give Alaba a lot of time to get back into rhythm, and I don't think he's going to make it back in time to rescue us if, in fact, Rudiger has an extended injury. I'm very worried about that. The right back position is another one of my great concerns. This is turning into a permanent liability. Lucas Vazquez, and I'll say it again, and I said it in my previous video, I'll say it again. Wonderful player, a legend, and somebody that we need to respect, but he cannot handle playing that position full time. Absolutely not. We're going to get shredded to pieces. If this guy is our only right back option, we're in trouble. I think that if Asensio needs to play right back, we should do that. Even if Fede has to play right back, I think we should do that. But I don't think Lucas Vazquez can play this position seriously against important opposition. He got shredded last night, and this was Espanyol. Okay, what's going to happen when you play Bayern Munich? Just really, really concerned. I'm also worried about the minute situation with Fede and Jude. Rudiger, obviously, we've already paid the price, but I'm very concerned. We depend a lot on these two players, but they play every minute of every match, and you can tell. Last night, both Jude and Fede felt a little slow to me, and I think that they're just overplayed, and I'm really, really concerned about that. And then in terms of La Liga, I'm very concerned about the ref situation. This little mafia, Barca for 20 years has been poisoning this league at every level, at the federation, at the refs, the TV, the everything you see, the VAR booth, all of that is just a giant Barca-sponsored mafia that has been built up over 20 years. Every ref in the league now is a disciple of Negreira. Every representative in these administrative bodies has been put in there in the last 20 years through Barca's influence. So the infrastructure of football in this country is completely poisoned, and we really need to just start over. And Real Madrid is pushing very hard to just change the system. We used to choose refs for matches on a random basis, but one of the things that Barca did when they first started 20 years ago, poisoning, bribing refs, etc., and their dealings with the federation, which were very shady, one of the first things they did was to change the way you pick a ref for a match. It used to be random, right? It used to be random, which gives you a bit of credibility. Nope. They changed the system so that you specifically assign a particular ref to a particular match. And who does that? The federation with the ref committee, all of these people that are in this Barca-funded mafia, which makes me sick. So I'm really concerned. In order for us to win La Liga, we have to play perfectly. We have to score a lot of goals because the refs will take everything away that they possibly can. And it's like playing against 12 men every single week. It just makes me sick. Last night's game alone, we had one red card that wasn't given, one goal that was disallowed that shouldn't have been disallowed, a red card that wasn't given that should have been given, and then 2 potential penalties, which, these are maybe more up for debate. Right, we had a play with Kylian turning in the box and another play with a handball as Lucas Vazquez was trying to control the ball with his chest. Those are 2 potential penalties. But my point is, did VAR even review them? Did the commentators even say anything? They don't. They don't even replay it. They just move on really quickly as if it never happened. But you can tell, like if you watch it on Spanish TV and you listen to the commentary, you can just tell the agenda that these people have. It's really, really disgusting. In terms of individual players, I'll do this quickly. Individually, look, Courtois, I don't think we can judge him too much. He didn't have a lot of work. I don't know how much he could have done in the goal. Maybe he could have done a little more. It's really hard to say. But on the basis that he really wasn't tested, I think Espanyol had 2 chances in the entire match, and one of them went in. It was just one of those matches. But I thought Courtois was sort of okay. Again, hard to really assess him properly. Didn't have much work. Lucas Vazquez, this is just not working. It's not working. I know he tries really, really hard, but players get past him so easily. Players get behind him so easily. And he just, even in attack, he's not participating as much as he used to. And defensively, he's just so porous. He just leaves so many gaps and holes. And Lucas Vazquez I don't think he has it in him to play in this position as a starter. And we need to do something about this. And in summer, we need to bring a new player in this position, period. We just have to. There's no other way around this. Tchouaméni had another really, really poor match. And I think he's starting to lose confidence. Tchouaméni yesterday, if you notice the distance that he's leaving between himself and the players, receiving the ball, and he's leaving way too much distance. He's not putting pressure on the ball the way he used to. He seems to back off from 50-50 challenges, which is the opposite of what you should do when you're a big physical player like Tchouaméni. You need to be in people's face. You need to be physical. You need to go in for those 50-50 balls because you're probably going to win them because you have a size advantage. But I found him very shy, backing off from these things. And just, letting players fly by him. Just another poor performance from Tchouaméni, who's not having his year. Rudiger, I can't really evaluate his performance because it was 14 minutes. So, he barely got a chance to play before he got injured. But, this is a really big deal. Asensio, once again, this guy is one of the few silver linings these days at Real Madrid, is that I think Asensio is proving to be just a phenomenal asset. This guy plays with so much intensity. He shows a lot of leadership on the pitch. He goes into every challenge, with so much conviction. He's not scared of anything. He really plays with so much intensity. And he's very quick, and he knows his placement on the pitch. Yesterday, he bailed out Tchouaméni I don't know how many times because Tchouaméni was, out of position. How many times did Asensio, clean things up for Tchouaméni yesterday? I think Asensio's a real gift, and this guy needs to start. Okay, stop fucking around. This guy needs to start because we have a gap on the right back position, and if he's not going to start as right back, start him as center back. But this kid needs to start. End of discussion. Okay, Fran I found him very, he was okay defensively, but I think he was remarkably imprecise going forward. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he put in a few crosses without even looking. He put in a few crosses where I didn't see him raise his head to kind of look where to pass the ball. He just he was putting balls into the box, but not intelligently, not very accurately. So I think he was just a little bit sloppy in attack. Defensively, maybe okay. I think Ceballos played all right. A lot of the glaring problems that the team had weren't, it's hard to pin down sort of to individuals. I think Ceballos, I don't think played too poor a match. I think he defended quite well. He tried to cover a lot of space. His distribution was okay. But again, we had a lot of weaknesses yesterday, but I don't think Ceballos was necessarily one of them. Fede looked a little bit tired to me. Look, Fede, we always love. He had a couple of plays backtracking that were just phenomenal, and Fede always gives 110%, and he's very consistent. But yesterday he felt a little bit tired and sluggish to me. And again, I think that the goal at the end of the match was a mistake. I think he was partly to blame for this, and I think it was just a lapse of concentration. And it could be fatigue. Like I say, he's playing way too many minutes. This could be a case of fatigue, and I think Fede is just going to have to rest one of these matches, because if he gets injured, this would be absolutely catastrophic for us. Jude, I don't know. I would kind of say something similar about Jude. I found him. He was not as effective connecting with the forwards yesterday. That the link-up play wasn't quite as good. Again, because I think the ball circulation was a little slow. So by the time the ball got to the forwards, it always felt like a little bit too late, and we always had defenders in front of our forwards by the time they received the ball. I think the link-up play wasn't quite as good as usual. He did, try his best and obviously defends with a lot of grit, but he just felt a little slower than usual to me, and a little bit lethargic. Rodrigo, I think probably was the player that I think tried the most and I think created the most danger. He's coming off the 2 goals against Brest. He obviously was very good in that match. Rodrigo, I think yesterday, he can be a bit hot and cold. But when he does participate in play, he's just such a wonderful dribbler at speed. He has a wonderful ability to turn in very short spaces. This guy can turn on a dime very quickly, has a very low center of gravity, which I think makes him very, very dangerous and very hard to defend. I think Rodrigo was good. He was creative. He tried. Probably one of our more dangerous players last night. But again, just a little bit unfortunate in terms of the finishing. Vini, I thought Vini was a little bit off. And, I think it's the second match in a row that I say this. I think Vini felt a little bit, absent at times. He sort of was just kind of not really playing. He, felt a lot of minutes would go by where he didn't intervene, and it seemed a little odd. I mean, Vini's a player that tends to dominate matches and tends to just have such an impactful presence, but he seemed to sort of fade out of the match for long stretches last night. The goal that he scored was phenomenal, and that goal should have counted. It was a real shame, but I think Vini, in general, I just think was a little bit off last night. He did have a couple of good plays in the second half where he showed his technique getting past players, but I just think he wasn't as involved in the attack as we're accustomed to. So I think he had a pretty crappy night, to be honest. Kylian, I thought, was good but frustrated. He's playing with a lot more conviction. He's a lot looser. He's attempting more. He's a bit more, a bit braver in terms of the things he's trying. But last night was just one of those nights where just things weren't working. That last dribble wasn't working. The last shot wasn't on target. Just the little things, the little things were missing. But I think he tried his best. I would say he had a sort of okay night. Nothing spectacular. Asensio, once again, I'll just say I think he was one of the silver linings, one of the real bright spots that we can talk about these days. Is Asensio, I thought he was wonderful. We didn't lose the game because of him. I think we lost the game despite him because I think he defended very, very well and did everything he could. Modric, not very effective this time. Didn't play too many minutes, but didn't really have the impact that we would hope. I tend to like to see Modric come in at the end of matches. He tends to make a bigger difference, but he didn't last night. In fact, in the counterattack of the goal, like I say, he should have fouled and interrupted that play. In terms of conclusions, I don't know what to say. I'm really, really pissed off and really frustrated. We have a crazy schedule coming up. It's going to be incredibly difficult. We're playing against really, we have Atletico Madrid, 2 matches against Man City, and there's no break, right? It's matches every 3 days for the foreseeable future, and it's going to be very tricky with the injuries that we have and how stretched some of our players are in terms of minutes. And then the technical mistakes that we're making with this bloody 4-3-3, this insistence on playing with 3 forwards. I'm very, very worried about what's going to happen when we play really serious rivals. And of course, I remain very concerned with the referee situation in this country. I don't understand why the prime minister or somebody needs to intervene. The minister of culture or sports or commerce. La Liga is one of Spain's biggest exports. I mean, Barça and Real Madrid are the 2 biggest names in world sports. This is a league that is followed globally, and it's clearly adulterated. It's clearly corrupt, and the refs in Spain are scandalous. These are the worst refs in all of Europe. When you watch a match in La Liga, the referee is always the protagonist. Somehow the ref is always part of the discussion. I watch Serie A and I watch the EPL and the refs are not, sometimes they fuck up, but generally speaking, they're not the main topic of conversation. In La Liga, every fucking match, the ref is like the center of the conversation. He seems to be the protagonist every single time. And I just don't understand how the prime minister or somebody at the government level doesn't intervene and say, we are ruining the image of Spanish football. We are ruining the image of one of our greatest exports. This is bad for the image of the nation. To be taken seriously as a country when there's such glaring corruption in your biggest sporting tournament. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, I'm really, really concerned for all the reasons I just mentioned. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm sorry, once again, I couldn't do anything about the Brest match. But thanks for joining me. And, let's hope things improve. But I would love to hear your thoughts. So please let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for joining me as always. Love you guys. And as always, a la Madrid.